Hey guys, thanks for watching Sahara TV. My name is Musah, and this is the Youth Perspective. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm Akosua Bekoe.
And I'm Oluwayemisi Olorunwunmi.
All right, guys. So we're going to be talking about some of the hottest things that have happened in Africa, and we're going to give you the perspective, the youth perspective. So we're going to start off with President Muhammadu Buhari. He had a meeting with the Niger president, the Cameroonian president, about all of the things that have been happening in the northeast and how they're going to fight the war against Boko Haram. And I like the fact that he took the position that Nigeria will be leading the war. I was very happy that he made that decision. The fact that, Cameroon and Niger actually wanted to, they proposed that they were going to be the leaders of the war because, as you guys recall, in the last 6 months, this last 6 weeks before the election, Cameroon and Chad were in the lead. They were killing all of these Boko Haram militants. But now that Baba Buhari is back, he is saying Nigeria is going to take the lead. So what do you guys think? Yeah.
Considering the history of Nigeria, I'm really skeptical about whether or not this is the right decision. I think collaboration is very important, but considering that Nigeria will be donating most of the resources and Boko Haram is a threat that affects us the most, I think it's only appropriate that we do take the lead. And interesting to see the developments that will follow, because Boko Haram has been intensifying their attacks on Nigeria, especially after Buhari has been making all those bold claims.
Most definitely. No, Nigeria should be in charge of the issues that are in their country. I think you were telling me earlier on about something else that's going on.
Yeah, military-wise, recently there was a story. It's a released report from an organization that reviews the UN within itself. The report showed that UN peacekeepers have been engaging in, quote, transactional sex with the women that they're supposed to be helping protect. And they literally engage in sex in exchange for phones, church shoes, money. And this is something that's against UN policy. And I think it's very important that African countries take the lead when it comes to our affairs, because it's clear that we cannot trust the UN for enough oversight and accountability, and they are not the organization that can protect us, because this is happening right underneath their noses. And considering that the African continent has 9 countries where UN peacekeeping missions are ongoing right now, I think there even needs to be a statement this weekend in the African Union meeting in Johannesburg.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's a really good point. I mean, President Buhari is going to be going to Johannesburg, as Akosua mentioned, for the African Union Summit. And one of the biggest things that's going to be on the Nigerian agenda is talking about what are we going to do with the military, what are we going to do with all of these UN peacekeepers that aren't doing the right thing. So, what do you think, Yami?
But I don't necessarily believe that Nigeria should always be in charge of the things that happen in their country. So, for instance, Chad and Niger and even Cameroon, they made so much more progress concerning the Boko Haram issue than Nigeria has ever made. And I think an important question to ask is, how can we expect our executives to achieve anything if there's disloyalty within a party? So something else that happened this week.
Well, okay, I kind of want to answer to that.
Yeah, go for it, by all means.
If you look at the leadership at that time, Goodluck Jonathan was all over the place. Right now, if you think about it, if you think about the things that Muhammadu Buhari is doing, he's really, focused on military. Everything that he's doing is he's going to the G7 summit and telling people that this is our agenda. We really want to stamp down Boko Haram, because without security, how can you build your economy? Goodluck Jonathan was all over the place. But I guess we can move on.
I think so far it's been all talk and not enough action.
Thank you.
Buhari has not been a president long enough for us to evaluate any of his policies. So I really hope that his actions can surmount up to the talk that he's been spreading all over.
I don't know. I feel like
most definitely. So, okay, for sure have to take into the fact that he's only been president for a short amount of time. But I think with what has happened this week, he's remained silent on a lot of issues. So if we look to the National Assembly and the way Saraki completely overruled the APC party and jumped into the presidency, like, how can Buhari have not known about that? How can that have been sanctioned without his knowing,
now,
you know?
Honestly, if you look at it, Buhari isn't worried about the small-time politics that are going on
of the National Assembly.
It's small-time politics at the end of the day, because what is the actual policy of the APC or the PDP or Saraki? They don't care about, you know, what they're going to be doing for their constituencies. At the end of the day, it's all about their own coffers. What President Buhari really wants at the end of the day is security. So he's fighting for that. And you said there were no actions that he made. At the end of it, like what Buhari did in the inauguration speech was move the military command from Abuja to Maiduguri. So I don't know.
I think it's very important to note that the people who the legislators who most affect the people directly will be the people in the National Assembly and the local people. Those are the people who affect Nigerian lives the most. So it's very important that we consider that. And also, Yemi, would you care to tell our viewers more about the Saraki incident?
Yes, thank you. So basically, in the National Assembly this week, Bukola Saraki was elected the president of the Senate, and this happened while 51 other members were waiting to have a meeting with President Buhari. And a lot of people just feel like this is a situation where there's no party discipline. There's a lot of disloyalty because many of the members who were not there in the Senate were APC members. And it's possible that you don't know that Saraki was actually a PDP senator and legislator last year, and he switched over to APC because he believed their politics to be more supreme and premier. But what he did in the Senate House was a completely disloyal act, and it seems like only in Nigeria can this be tolerated by a party official. And politics has become something that's about self rather than what your entire party wants. You know, the point of a democracy is for us to work for our people and for us to all work together to accomplish something. But Saraki, he was just a wild bull that went off by himself to accomplish something for himself, and that is not all right.
Sips tea.
Yes.
Sips tea. Wow.
No, that's a very good point.
I think for me, the most outraging part of that story is the fact that 51 senators were disenfranchised and couldn't vote on their Senate president. I mean, I do hope that in the way that they were disenfranchised, they will do a lot more to protect the rights of average Nigerians who systematically get disenfranchised in their own elections. But on a different note, I think the emphasis should be that I honestly have mixed feelings about parties because I think on one hand, our legislators should represent the people and there should be no intermediary. And I think that's what parties are. So we should focus more on cohesion within the National Assembly than party politics. And on that party politics, who is surprised? Because the way the APC came together, it was a collection of several interests who wanted to bond together and fight and defeat the PDP, which they have. But it's not really a strongly organized political organization. So that's something that you're going to have to work on individually. But I really hope that this does not get in the way of progress for Nigeria, which should be the focus.
No, most definitely.
I mean, this really is embarrassing for Buhari and his administration.
I think that one of the other things that happened was somebody did step into the forefront to say how they just felt like Saraki's action was absolutely not appropriate. And this was Remi Tinubu.
Yeah, let's talk about
she
Remi.
is just a woman she's a woman who's in the headlines, you know, because she just refused to let that happen. There should be loyalty among party. There should be talk. There should be communication. Saraki had told President Buhari that he would be at the meeting with the 51 other legislators, but then in the evening, in the nighttime, he connived with former PDP legislators so that they would all go to the Senate House and vote for him. But I think what Remi did, can we talk about that, please?
Let's talk about my girl, Remi. So Remi Tinubu is a senator, and there's this process where they take the oaths and then they sign the paper and they all go and greet the Senate president, who's Saraki. Remi Tinubu is the wife of the one and only Mr. Bola Tinubu. And Mr. Bola Tinubu is strongly affiliated with the APC party, and he endorsed Senator Lawan as Senate president. So obviously his wife, also being APC, strongly disliked Saraki being Senate president. And so she refused to shake the hand of Saraki, and this made headlines. One, because she's a senator, one, because she's a female, and most importantly, because she's the wife of Bola Tinubu, who is a huge name in Nigerian politics.
In Lagos state politics.
But I'm really confused, and I hope you viewers will help me get this. In a poll that Pulse Nigeria did, it showed that 71% of Nigerians disagreed with her actions. And I'm equally as conflicted, because I don't know if I should view her as a hero who is standing up for the rights of senators and who is saying this is wrong, or if she's just endorsing petty party politics. How should we view Miss Remi?
We should really view Miss Remi as Bola Tinubu's wife at the end of the day.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And like I'm gonna say that because honestly, we don't know who else didn't shake, you know, Saraki's hand. At the end of the day, if we look at it, you know, Bola Tinubu and Remi Tinubu are married. Bola Tinubu is one of the men who is a big part of the infrastructure of Lagos and Nigeria, and was instrumental in getting Buhari into office. But you know, what can we say about Remi Tinubu? What else can we say about Remi Tinubu?
I think it's completely inappropriate for you to refer to Ms. Remi Tinubu only as Bola's wife. She is a senator herself. She's a woman who is educated. She's gone through school. She's put in the work. And to only refer to her as Bola Tinubu's wife is completely inappropriate and really disenfranchising and really disregarding all of her own accomplishments. Also,
Did
second
you
of
say
all,
that she earned her votes?
Yes. Do you have any proof that she didn't?
I mean, I'm pretty darn sure that Bola Tinubu followed her to the campaign, was at the campaign rallies saying, "Vote for my wife because I was a great politician for Lagos."
I really dislike this representation of Miss Remi Tinubu as a helpless damsel who has no mind but to follow every hip and hop thing that her husband is saying. This is completely inappropriate. I think if the genders were reversed, you wouldn't be referring to Mr. Bola Tinubu as only as Miss Remi's husband.
I think what we have to look at is what she did in the public sphere. In the House of the National Assembly, she herself stood alone and refused to shake Saraki's hand. She wasn't with her husband. They weren't linked arm in arm. They weren't in their kitchen together doing whatever. Do you know what I'm saying?
She stood alone, but who was the first person to not shake her hand, to shake Saraki's hand? That's what I want to know. And we're not sure about that, but everyone is going to make sure that they report the fact that Bola Tinubu's wife didn't shake Saraki's hand. And I don't think it's a story. I mean, it is a story because we're talking about it right now, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's a story.
I think this is bringing about an important point about the state of women's rights in Nigeria, which is really reminding me of this story that broke earlier this week. Earlier this week, Wasila Tasiu, who was a 13-year-old girl, 13, who was from Kano State, who was forced into a marriage, and she was recently got off death row due to the good work of these human rights lawyers, and she signed off on a confession with, she couldn't read because, you know, she didn't have an education. And the confession stated that she killed her husband and 3 of his friends due to rat poisoning. And the argument that the human rights lawyers made was that she was forced into a marriage, she was traumatized. Come on, this is a 13-year-old girl. Like, Lord knows if she knew what she was doing.
She did.
And I'm so glad that she got off of death row. But on an even sadder note,
she faces bigger problems now.
Do you know the Nigerian Assembly has made it legal constitutionally that the age of marriage in Nigeria is 1 years old. 11 years old is the age that a girl can get married in Nigeria. I think this is absolutely despicable. As one of Africa's most populous countries, this 11 years old is the age of marriage. That's absolutely ridiculous, and it really holds back women. And when women are held back in a society, it holds back the entire society at large.
No, it's very true.
Women under the age of 15 are 5 times more likely to die in childbirth, not likely to be educated, most likely to live in homes where domestic violence takes place, and they cannot impart knowledge onto their children because they don't know anything in the first place. They become a burden to society because they cannot be fully economically developed. And looking at long-term development, for Nigeria, I think women's education should be at the forefront. That is an area where we have a chance to grow. And child marriage is unacceptable.
And even more so now that she is off of death row, she's free, her lawyer is concerned that once she goes back to Kano, she's going to be ostracized by the community. And more so, they want her to pay $170,000 for each of the men that died through the rat poison. And that's ridiculous. And they're even saying that she shouldn't be a part of the village. She has no place there anymore because they've lost 4 men. But I think what we need to look at is the loss to women, just as you've been talking about.
The loss to an entire generation, to be honest. Her children, her children's children will probably end up living in the same situation.
It's very sad. You know, honestly, you know, I'm going to track back a little bit about Remi Tinubu and say, you know, that I'm not trying to say that, you know, a woman doesn't have a place in politics, but at the end of the day, you know, if a woman wants to make a statement or, you know, or make a difference in politics, she has to be able to stand alone. So like somebody like Adiola Fayahun, you know, standing up to the Zimbabwean president, that's a female activist. That's a leader that these 11-year-old girls who are getting married off should be looking up to.
I think leadership comes in many different ways.
It does.
You can't disregard what Remi has done in the Senate House because you think you're considering who Bola is and what their relationship is.
I also think a woman's marriage shouldn't hold her back from being regarded as an equally viable political entity.
I mean, we can go on for.
But I'm so glad you've recognized that women can have a place in politics. I think that's completely revolutionary, and if the people of Nigeria, you know, recognize that as well, we would make a lot of progress in this world.
Fantastic. Let's move on. So, in other terrible news, Ghana. The last 2 weeks have been very tough for Ghana. You know, there was a flood that, you know, really devastated so many individuals all over the country, all over Accra, and the infrastructure was not able to hold, you know, the level of water. And basically, you know, so like after all this flooding, so many people, you know, evacuated into the gas station, and, you know, lightning hit the gas station and hundreds of people died. And, you know, it was one of the worst tragedies of all time, you know, in Ghana history. And, you know, the vice president of Ghana, Amisa Arthur, came in and basically said the key to fixing these infrastructural gaps is $15 billion over the next 10 years.
Wait, sorry. I'll have to interrupt you right there. You said $15 billion. Additional money. What I have to ask you is what happened to the $918 million that was already given by the IMF that was endowed to Ghana to help with their issues?
I don't know. Why don't you ask Mahama?
I'm asking you.
Well, the $900 million, magically, after the $900 million happened, we heard news of the ECG about to be sold, the electric company of Ghana, you know, about to be sold, and then the Dumsor Must Stop. The Dumsor Must Stop vigil happened. You know, there are so many things that were happening in Ghana, but, you know, we're running out of time, and, you know, at the end of the day, leadership in Ghana, leadership in Nigeria needs to change, and I think we're seeing a change.
I think we're seeing it, yeah. If we can just quickly talk about Al-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, and what he's doing in the ministries. He's reduced the number of ministries because he understands that there's a revenue problem in Nigeria. He understands that almost only 20% of his state's revenue is being given to the citizens, and the other 80% is being fold into the pocket of public officials and public servants. That doesn't make any sense at all. And I think that Al-Rufai, Buhari can look to Al-Rufai for some leadership points on how to run. Al-Rufai even slashed his salary 50%, him and his deputy governors, because he cares about the way the state is going. He cares about making an actual change. And I think what we must do now, or what Nigeria should look to do, is to change the way commitment works. So our commitment to serve is to serve and not to be served, you know?
Yes, yes.
Well, all right, guys. We're going to wrap this up. This has been the Youth Perspective with Mohammed, Akosua, and Yemisi. And, you know, like, we really appreciate you joining us. At the end of the day, let's take advantage of, you know, the opportunity we have with all this technology, and, you know, get the word out about how we want to change our country. What do you guys have to say?
Let's change the world.
Let's do it. We're out and about and changing the world. And up next, there will be scenes from The Gist.
The Gist with
Toyosi
Phillips.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah.